All right, good morning. It's 10 o'clock, and you know what that means. It's time for some news. We're here with the one and only China Boke Terrell. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good. We have the incomparable Marcia Jews. How are you? Hi, Marcia.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody?
Well, that wasn't all of that chipper. How you doing?
Peachy.
And then we have the one and only Irvin Bernard Reed. Now, ladies, let me just tell you, when it comes to Maryland politics, you have with you the guru, the dean. And he often pays homage to some of the older cats, but I think he's well earned his own place in the political realm. Marcia Jews, Irvin Bernard Reed, straight out of Cherry Hill.
All right, now. Good morning, everyone.
Hello, how you doing?
I am
Good
wonderful.
morning.
Ms. Jews, I think we're Facebook friends or whatever, but I've known your name for years and have admired you from a distance, so I'm truly honored to actually be on a program with you.
Lord have mercy. Thank you, Mr. Reed. That made me feel good today. Woke me up.
Your name and reputation totally precede you. You are
I
somebody
appreciate
that I admire
you.
from a distance.
Flattery will get you everything, my friend. Everything.
Thank you, sir.
Everything.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, Irvin,
So-
you are from Baltimore,
Yeah.
but for the past, 25, 30 years, you've been in Prince George's?
Since 75, when I went to Bowie State, I pretty much stayed in the area.
45 years.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did come back. My very first campaign was Talmadge Branch in 86. And he's the one that taught me politics. We used to go visit Larry Gibson, and I would just
Oh, yeah.
take notes. And then I got a chance to work with Larry with Wayne Curry, and that was like earning my PhD in politics. Then, of course, came back and did Kirk Smoke's last campaign.
Wayne Curry, man, talk about that, man.
Yeah,
That
no,
was a bad brother.
bad brother. Yep.
Woo!
Now, China, you may not know, but Wayne Curry was the first Black county executive in gorgeous Prince George's County. And for those
Oh, really?
who may
Yeah.
not know, also, Prince George's County is considered the wealthiest or among the wealthiest Black jurisdictions in the United States.
Yep.
Well, I'm from PG County, and I didn't get the memo. I still sometimes call it PG. I know I'm supposed to call it Prince George's now, but I grew up in Oxon Hill, Maryland, and I went to Oxon Hill High School.
Oh, okay.
Well, you're looking at
Right before I turned 17, but I'm from PG County.
okay, well, this is the man who's been behind the scenes in your county politics for 4 decades. This man right here.
And I think that PG is finally getting what it deserves. I mean, we've got the MGM casino, and then that entire amazing shopping
Harbor.
centers, all of those upscale stores.
National Harbor, yeah.
Better
Yeah.
late than never. But when I was growing up, the people in PG County could have supported that with their money then, but we had to when we wanted to go shopping, we drove all the way out to Tyson's Corner, Virginia, because they didn't put nice things in our neighborhood. And I'm glad that it's finally there. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. And actually, National Harbor was Wayne's dream and, his last major project. And
Yeah.
like he used to always say that, they started building everything around Washington was built out. And he said, we're the kid now at the perfect time until they learn how to create new land. We the hottest thing in the country. And like you say, the Gaylord Hotel, the MGM, yeah, and now things are starting to really buster as well. So
I know.
Yeah.
And the people deserve it. The people deserve it. They could have supported that a long time ago, but we had to prove.
So, China, let's get to that. China, let's get to that. Irvin, what has been the challenge there in Prince George's County?
Well, and one of the things I did when I wasn't campaigning, I would do a lot of community outreach with developers. And so I worked with just about every major developer. And the question was, if I'm a developer, and developers are trying to make money, so they really don't care about race as much as people think. But therefore, if I build Nordstrom's and put it in Montgomery, put it in Anne Arundel, or put it in Fairfax, I know black people are going to come.
Regardless.
Prince George's, I don't know if they don't know if white people are going to come.
Right.
And so that was part of the dilemma.
Right.
They're just trying to hedge their bet of what makes sense for them. And but Prince George's, like I said, and then you had to have the right leadership. Quite honestly,
Right.
Before Wayne, there was this, I'll call it backwards mentality of we don't, because the people don't realize back in the day, if you wanted Nordstrom's doesn't pay rent. You bring them in, and then they raise all the other rent. So you pay them $25 million up front. You build their store, and in Prince George's, they didn't want to do that. And also, if you notice too, in the Washington D.C. metropolitan area, the only place where the metro does not go outside the Beltway is in Prince George's. In Montgomery, it goes outside, in Virginia, Fairfax, and that was because white folk there didn't want black folk from the city coming in. And stealing their stuff and hop back on the metro. So the mentality was totally backwards, and that had a lot to do with it as well. Then there's a lot of racial things that went with the, those that were in charge that are still in charge, quite honestly.
So, Urban, is that still an issue with the metro? They still haven't figured out how to build it out, or has that changed now?
I think now because it's so expensive, that's been one of the things. But yeah, they just didn't want people just believe that black folk believe now that we're in charge, that we continue what people keep telling us over the years. Prince George's has a lot of strange laws that no other jurisdiction in Maryland has. For example, elected officials, Angela just got it changed, the county executive, Angela also works, and you changed it last year, where she can take money from developers, local developers. The county,
what do you mean take money? What does that mean?
That means that if I'm a developer, I can't make a donation to the county exec or the county council in Prince George's County. Or if I do, then they got to recuse themselves on a vote, which is only in Prince George's County. And that was done by the state elected officials to try to control the county, which they've controlled for years, which they still control, quite frankly. And but that law, so there are 11 folk now in the state of Maryland who can't take money from developers. In the entire state of Maryland, you're a council member in Baltimore, Anne Arundel, you're a county exec, whatever. But there are 11 people, majority of whom are African Americans, that can't take money. And what white folk do, especially in Prince George's County, is a classic example. They're looking years ahead, and they knew as the county started to turn black, all these laws started to take place. And there's something called TRIM, the Tax Referendum Initiative of Maryland, is that you can't raise taxes in Maryland, in Prince George's, unless you go back to the people and have a vote. Which hurts you on Wall Street. Wayne tried to, raise his own money, try to overturn it. But laws like that, then that prevents, because white folk didn't want that money going into the schools. So when things started to turn black, then they put all these laws in place. And then we as African Americans, because we don't really understand, we think it's a good thing. And I'm like, no, first of all, it's unconstitutional. You can't have 11 people in the state of all the elected officials, a law that only affects them. But so
that's crazy.
It is. But politically, and which is fascinating, which is frustrating for me, because I've seen it up close. And I'm like, look, y'all got to really understand the game and what's going on. And we got to start. And that's why Donnie and I were talking the other day about black media.
Right.
That's the number one problem in our community is we don't have our own media like we used to have, because we need to be educated by our own, like to me, MSNBC and CNN, to me, they're worse than Fox, because we buy that with the full, steam. We don't even second guess it. So, but like I say, Prince George's, it's a different place.
So if you have all of these elected officials down in Prince George's, right, and they're in Annapolis, what's happening internally that could turn, or what could happen internally to turn that around? It sounds like there is a whole legislative black caucus for the state of Maryland.
Right.
Right? They meet all the time.
Right.
How come that hasn't gone through all of those people with the idea that each each member creates this movement of their own constituency to change that.
Well, Marcia, the first part of your question I'll answer is already taking place. Mike Miller is no longer the power that he was.
Right.
And Mike Miller pretty much ruled Prince George's County.
The king.
The king. And Prince George's had, like I say, I grew up in Baltimore politically, working with Talmadge. Then I think I can't even think of his name. He ran citywide, but in every jurisdiction, I've done campaigns in DC and a few around the country. But when I ran, like for example, Mayor Schmoke had Mayor Schmoke team, and then then Senator so and so, everybody had and they ran. Prince George's has a slate system, whereas what the Miller and those people realized was, okay, when Tommy Broadwater, the first state senator, came on, they brought him into the system, and you had all of these state senators, and then Tommy, but they would come together as one and work together.
Right.
So instead of
team.
Yeah, and in Prince George's, there's like a lion running herds, tigers run by themselves.
Right.
So I'm used to not being part of this team. So in order to get on the ticket to win, you had to basically be a part of the slate. And the slate was controlled by white senators, which it still is. Right. Now that Miller is gone, now it's sort of like the Middle East when Saddam got killed. Yeah, it's wide open right now.
Right.
And so now you got people stepping up. And Miller, people were afraid of Mike Miller. When Wayne ran, he ran against, I think there were 7 senators. We had one of them, and there were like 27 delegates, and we had one of them. Everybody else was on the slate. So when I ran, we put together the campaign. We had to run against this entire slate. And so when they select certain people that they wanted to be in office, and those people would never buck the system. Unlike Wayne bumped it every day.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
That was a bad brother.
He's a bad brother.
You mentioned another man that would be I'd be very interested in hearing what he would think, and that was Larry Gibson.
Yeah. When Larry came to Prince George, first of all, and China, don't take this wrong, but Prince George to me is funny because it is the most affluent jurisdiction in the world, but yet the school system is second only to Baltimore as far as being the worst system.
Right.
But that mentality of all of these, there's an importance. People in Prince George like to be important. And again, I'm from Cherry Hill, so I tried being important. That was just too much work for me. And but what Larry came down, and again, this guy, Larry, everybody heard Larry Gibson.
Right.
And Larry comes through the door, and they're thinking, because in DC, when you that caliber of lawyer with Larry, you got on a $3,000 suit, all of this. Larry comes down, hair every which way, shoes,
right.
Larry Gibson
handling his business.
Yeah, and then Larry's thing was, I would say, Larry, have talked to so and so, they want to meet with you, and Larry, well, they writing checks. I said, well, no, not really. He said, well, tell him meet me on the corner. We go door knocking together. So the important people don't door knock. And I'm from the line. I'm 63. So I still door knock to this day, just like Larry. Yeah. So he was just different.
Yeah.
Then back then, we didn't, things have changed and people had, their home phones and all of that. And this was in 94 when Wayne first ran. And he bought, Prince George's had all of these unlisted numbers. It freaked him out. Damn, almost half the people got an unlisted number in Prince George's County. But everybody in this area is so important that it's so fascinating to me. It's like with DC. That's why DC now, black folk are irrelevant because they were too important not taking care of business. And so, but that's what Prince George is, everybody is important. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you're saying this because honestly, I've been thinking about this for a really long time. Prince George's County does have an incredible amount of wealth. I mean, nationally, in terms of I think is it second only to Atlanta now? It used to be higher than Atlanta, but I think that Atlanta may have eclipsed PG County now, but I'm not sure in terms of the concentration of Black affluence and wealth. But in the state of Maryland, Prince George's County is second to Baltimore in terms of high taxes. And like you said, the school system isn't there. The services are to be desired, right? Leave a lot to be desired. And so I'm always trying to think of, what's happening? Why is it that way? What is it that, we're not taking care of in our own?
Ask them that question, Irvin. Why aren't Black people taken care of? And let's just cut to the chase, Irvin.
I'm saying, what is it that we're not taking care of? Not who's taking care of us, but what is it that we're not taking care of? Like, what's the disconnect?
Well,
what's the problem in PG County, Irvin?
Well, no. Let me not paint a bleak picture of Prince George's, because Prince George's has a lot of great things going on.
No, but tell the truth, Irvin.
The reality of that.
Mike Miller was a plantation slave master type personality down there that put fear in a lot of Black people, as did Martin O'Malley, as he does here in Baltimore City.
But I don't blame somebody.
Donnie.
True or false, Irvin?
Well, no, no, but if look, I guess because I'm from Cherry Hill, somebody put fear in you went to school, they took your money, they supposed to take it. So I can't blame somebody that took somebody's money. So no, but the problem is it's good for a lot of people to be comfortable to be elected, and they're not used to fighting. Look, I came from Baltimore when Talmadge we ran. Yeah, I mean, we had our own team and all that. People here were picked. People don't want to give up that power, and so they do what they. And that's just not Prince George's. That's all over the country.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, Irvin, you said give up that power. If they had the power, why haven't they used the power?
Because they fear losing their status. I mean, just like all these Republicans are scared.
I think that Irvin is right. I think that he's onto something. I think that's what it is. We get elected by our base, but then if we free I don't know. Is it that if we free our base economically, then all of a sudden we lose the power that got us there in the first place? So we depend on the status quo. We're not elevating people. I don't know. What is it? I have no idea.
Exactly. People love being elected, love being in office. A lot of people, it's the first time they've been somebody, and it's good to, eat big shrimp and go to football games and sit in the suite and all of that, make a good salary, all of that. So, but yeah, it's, you're not going to find a lot of people that buck the system. Like I say, Wayne was one of them. We ran and Wayne got punished. I got punished. Yeah, I mean, I would get, I had Mike Miller tell a friend of mine, tell that little bald head, bastard, I'm going to F him. And he did. And I called him up and yeah, but again, it is what like Wayne used to say, it's a full contact sport.
Right.
And most people don't go into a boxing ring, they don't want to get hit.
So Irvin, you said earlier that essentially fear has overtaken us, but Wayne Curry was not one to live in fear.
He was fearless.
But you're suggesting that he was surrounded by people who were.
Oh, absolutely. Wayne, look, I'm gonna give you an example. When Paris Glendenny ran for re-election in 1998 for governor.
No,
Wayne Curry.
Was that 98? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because
Irvin knows.
Yeah, well, him and Wayne got elected at the same time in 94. But Paris, 4 years earlier, had a real close race. I think it took 2 days for them to call it against Ellen Sauerbrei.
Right.
And
the Republican.
And she got zero help from the RNC because they think she So there was a fear that this woman was going to beat a Glendenny, so they needed everybody on board.
Now they are friends. They are friends, right?
Right.
Yeah, but Wayne Curry and Kirk refused to endorse Glendenny. And you have no idea the amount of hell that they would catch. At least I know Wayne, and I was catching Wayne, Irvin, your boy gonna get a Republican boy, Wayne. And I talked to Wayne, and Wayne said, look, Maryland ain't Mississippi. We ain't Louis, we're a rich state.
Right.
They put the money into our school systems in Baltimore and Prince George's and raise it. And he said, no, my thing is this. We're gonna meet with Paris, we're gonna come to an agreement, and then we're gonna have a press conference so the world can see, and then I'll endorse him. But he caught hell from him. Nah, Wayne, because everybody went with Paris because that's what Wayne was
Democrat.
Yeah, but and this is why it's hard for me to be Democrat. The only reason they endorsed him because
They
Bill
were gonna
Clinton.
lose.
Well, no, Bill Clinton
Mhm.
called both him and Wayne and threatened to take away their HUD money if they didn't endorse, because Kennedy's daughter, of course, was
Right, Catherine. She was Lieutenant General, right?
Yeah, so
She was a
that was
plantation owner.
who.
Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, she was a slave owner too.
But Donnie, at some point we gotta look in the mirror.
Daddies, that's right. They all were.
Yeah, I mean, look, hey, I'm not scared. I mean, yeah, but again, I always had to take the rough road up. In Baltimore, you learn to fight. If you run in a campaign, yeah, Prince George's this ticket, it grew folk that don't know how to fight, and now they're
Afraid to fight because they had too much to lose.
too much to lose. Yeah,
But 4 years later, it did not work. And Prince George's County helped elect the first Republican governor in 36 years. Coppin State, as a result, got money it never got from Democrats in this city.
And tell us more, Donnie. I'm sure there's more to that story.
Oh, I'll tell you more. And then in 2014, the second Republican governor came in 50 years, and Coppin got even more money. Now, that's not to say I agree with all of Hogan's stuff. But
Shenanigans.
If you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same result.
Right.
And I'm proud of Prince George's, Wayne Carey, Irvin, and the other blacks down there who decided, you know what? Enough with this chicken scratch. We want the whole damn turkey factory.
Angela is another one. Angela, the current county executive. I ran her first campaign when she ran for state's attorney. And there were 5 people in the race, and nobody gave us a chance. And of course, she won. But she's not beholden to anybody as well, because Angela had her own team, and my philosophy. And I should say this too. Larry Gibson gave the model of how to win in Prince George's, which is the same exact model that he uses in Baltimore and everywhere else. I just use his model, and I use the exact same campaign for Wayne twice, same one for Angela, the same one for Calvin Hawkins, who's now the chair of the county council. So
wow.
It's different, and it's real high visibility, and it's in your face 24/7, and it's a way that we do it. And I didn't understand it until I came to Baltimore. When Larry first came down with Wayne, and he said, look, Irvin, he had characteristics of certain neighborhoods. He said, show me a neighborhood that looks like this. Show me a neighborhood that looks like that. Bam, bam, bam. And then we did our thing. And then I went back to Baltimore to do Kirk Schnoke's last campaign. And I noticed we started at the same place, same type of neighborhood. We did the same thing. Oh, he's perfected. And so that's down in Prince George. Yeah.
Let me share a story with you. Larry and Kurt, they ran Sharif's over in Liberia, President Sharif's campaign. I was up in Harlem at a opening for her. It was a reception, and I walked up to her because it was an intimate place. And I said, I think you know a couple of my friends. I think they're your friends. And she's like, oh, very proper. And I said, yes. Does the name Larry Gibson or Kurt Schmoke mean anything to you? Oh, yes. And she went crazy.
Okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes. It's nice.
Sorry about that. That was cute. But the point of it is that these guys are dealing with Madagascar, and they're running presidential campaigns literally around the world.
Okay, that's fine. But here in Baltimore, what does that mean?
That was an anecdotal thing.
In terms of power, you could have a black county.
That means we have trained people.
You could have a black mayor.
And what?
But Baltimore is still.
We've had a lot of those.
Powerless. Our schools at the bottom. Blacks get maybe 1 to 2% of local contracts. Mass incarceration is through the roof. Police corruption and some more stuff. But
isn't that the leadership? Isn't that start with the mayor? That starts with the mayor, right?
I
talk to people every single day, and there's I think what surprises me is the number of people who have had it with 300 plus murders a year. Literally, they have had it, and people that you would never think would be thinking about leaving the city, or whether this is their last year in Baltimore, or thinking about it, because just the murder rate is so high. And so I feel that the stakes are really high for Mayor Scott right now.
Right. So, but let me get to the question, Irvin. So what that you have a black mayor if the masses of black people are not benefiting? It's nice that your talented 10th are able to penetrate the glass ceiling, but Baltimore's had, going back to Smoke was at 99 that he was last mayor, 12 years.
Something like that, yeah.
We don't control much of anything. Let's go to the Maryland State Lottery, 1973. They shoved it down our throats. Gotta have the Maryland State Lottery, money for education. Most recently, Governor O'Malley, money for education, table gambling, slots. Yet they've collected $14 billion, brand new football and baseball stadium. Yet we have classrooms in Baltimore City with ice on the windows. Something is fundamentally wrong. We have all of these black elected officials, but no power.
Why is that?
Donnie, we got power, we don't use it. I mean, but
right. So I'm trying to understand why is it we don't have power there in office.
There's some point we got to stop blaming white folk for our issues.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem with white supremacists and all of that. I ain't got a problem with Trump, none of that. I got a problem with us. When Joe Biden,
y'all are touting Kurt Smoke, you're touting Larry Gibson, they're super strong. I get it, but look at us now. So what?
No, what I'm saying though.
So look at the last couple of mayors couldn't even finish out their program.
Rat poison that these same white power brokers tend to drop in the game. You see, they went after Nick. He didn't even become city council president. He owed $45,000 in loans. They dirty up who they want, and then other people who are straight criminals. Oh well, they get to walk through like they cleaner than Caesar's wife.
What would you have us do? What's that answer? What's the answer to change that, do a paradigm shift?
Take the black elected officials, put them on a bus, strip them butt naked, and put them out in Africa for about 2 weeks for a spiritual retreat and let them think about what the good Lord has blessed them with. Because when you got black elected officials getting knocked off for $500, $15,000, $35,000, clearly they don't know what God put them in a position to do. Clearly they do not. And they can take pictures praying to God and Jesus and Allah, but their ass is going to prison.
Okay.
One of them is in prison. A couple of them in prison. A couple more going to prison. But what have they done for the people? They get all, they get situated. They're well off. But look at Park Heights. Park Heights looks like a bomb. Ain't even no black people up there.
Yeah. Well, East Baltimore too. West Baltimore, the whole city.
Everybody I want to be a delegate. I want to be state senator. And then you go down to Annapolis. Hey, I'm Senator so-and-so. I'm in charge of this committee. Dude, your East Baltimore district looked like Iraq. And they've been in office 20 years.
But we keep voting them in. Why is that?
That's on us.
Right. What?
We've mastered getting elected. We've not mastered power.
But
power and operation and management, because you got it. Once you get in there, you have to be able to do something. You have to have the intelligence and the wherewithal and the intestinal fortitude to even want to do the work.
And I don't think this is about power. I think the reason that as a city we are so behind is because we think it's about power. I honestly think this is not about power. I think that the art is way more nuanced than that. If it were just about power, then I think we wouldn't be in a way better place. I think this is about a deeper level of service. I mean, I don't quite know how to articulate it or what to call it, but I think that because people think it's about power and that's what they're pursuing.
Okay, you've said that. What is it about? Ego.
Well, articulate it, as you said.
You know what?
But here's ego is that you get in there and you can't run it because you don't have the skill set to do what you think you should do, because it looks like it's easy to do, but it's not easy to do. You haven't really done what you needed to do in order to manage the whole thing. So if you're walking in there, you don't know anything about it. You've never sat down and looked at all of the people that have done it, gone and sat in and actually sit with them and learn what the job is about, what we shouldn't do, how we should get there, what are the possibilities, how do you develop those relationships, how do you cut through the garbage, and how do you make a difference and be that beacon of hope? We have not done that because it means you have to be vested other than sitting at a desk and sitting on the phone and doing whatever your ego tells you to do. It's bigger than that. You have to get your hands dirty and you have to get your feet in 100%.
I'm looking at the new elected officials here in Baltimore City all through the weekend. Over the past 5 days, everybody's tweeting. Everybody's got a Facebook post. Do the damn work.
I do agree with that. But let me ask this. I feel that what Marsha is describing is what I would call a deep sort of kind of intellectual curiosity, like a desire and a drivenness to understand and to learn and to piece it together so that you can help someone, save someone. I don't know, Mr. Irvin, I was about to call you your father's name, Mr. Reed, but you are walking these politicians from candidacy through to when they are in office. You see who they are when they have no title. What is it that's missing that doesn't allow some politicians to lead in the way that they need to so that they can actually save lives and elevate people?
Well, I think Marsha said it best. A lot of them don't know how, but then a lot of them that do know are afraid to go against the status quo because they don't want to lose their position. And there's nothing worse. Like for example, if I've gone to Las Vegas on several occasions, I'm not gonna play more than $5 because I'm afraid. I work too hard.
I'm with you.
Yeah, $5. You can't go to Annapolis and afraid to lose your job, then you can't be effective. See, Wayne went into office with his own money. We had our own organization. I had more people on the
right there.
Didn't owe nobody.
Yeah, we didn't owe nobody nothing, and we already fought them. And again, I got hit by Mike Miller a few times, and we hit back. So, but most of our elected officials, it's not about the people, it's about them. When Wayne and Kirk said we're not supporting Glendenning because of A, B, C, and D, because we're a rich state, they weren't worried about the repercussions. Everybody, because trust me, they gonna hit back. Like he said, it's a full contact. I've been with Wayne.
Right.
At his house, and he's smoking, he died of lung cancer. He's smoking right after another. It's a tough game. And most people don't want to do that. And that's the problem. But that's on us. We keep electing these people. I do think it's changing, though. I think people beginning to wake up. I think a lot of it has to do with Obama and Trump. People are realizing Obama could have done more. People keep like, man, this man can do more, y'all. But no, Irvin, they won't let him know. They ain't got
He
nothing.
could do more. He definitely could do more. And he could do something now.
But we the ones that defended him, though, Donnie. That's what I'm saying. At some point,
I don't know that he could have done more. I used to think that. I don't know that he could have done more because look, as soon as he tried to appoint the next Supreme Court justice, I mean, he couldn't
get the vote
for an entire year. If he couldn't get the vote.
He can do something now. All through his administration, they talk about my brother's keeper initiative. We never heard another thing about it.
Well, I get stuff about them all the time.
I'm saying stuff. When Barack Obama,
I've not seen him in Baltimore at all.
When he was elected, he appointed a black attorney general. And you're gonna sit here and tell me I got brothers in jail or marijuana charges with no firearms involved,
right?
That are sitting in jail doing, and these people, bankers, are gonna bring this country to its knees and nobody get to jail. No, that's on the justice. He ain't gotta go to Congress on that. He didn't do that. Freddie Gray didn't have to die. I'm in DC. I know cops taking people and beating the hell out of them. Hell, I got locked up for robbing a bank when I was a kid in Baltimore. But that whole zero tolerance that O'Malley brought to Baltimore, that stuff has been crazy. He knew that. They got reports. They could have done something about that. Yeah, he could have let more people out of prison. you know, when he got there, the first person he put in charge, she quit because she says it's a joke. You know, this whole program he's got. No, there's a lot of president can do. First and foremost, I'll give you an example. Marion Barry. People don't understand what Marion did. Marion Barry changed the culture in corporate America in DC.
Yes.
If you were black, you couldn't sell in DC. If you were IBM, they all started looking for black folks. That's what a president can do.
Period.
A president could bring in Microsoft, Facebook, all these companies, say, look, I need y'all to do something for black inner cities. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to do what's, no, the hell with the Congress. The real power ain't the government. It's that money around that they can make somebody do. That's what they don't do.
And Marion did it, and he did it with finesse. He was not playing. I was living in DC at that time. He was cold-blooded.
And unapologetic about being black. He's like,
yes.
I don't with white people, with Jews.
So who should we be watching now? All right, like, I mean, who should we be watching? Who's not afraid to lose their job right now?
Let's go back to his point. Irvin mentioned a very important thing.
Right.
Wayne Curry had his own money.
Right.
And what you see, anytime you see a delegate going to prison, what's she clipped? 30, 15 grand, 20 grand? Clearly, she's got some fiscal issues in her own house.
Right.
Maybe she should have never been an elected official from Jump Street.
Right.
But when you don't have your own money, you become beholden. Right. So somebody has sent a check in the mail, and you know that if you cash that check, you better do what they say. Period. Otherwise, that little dirty secret that they got in the black book is going to come into the Baltimore Sun or the Washington Post. Number two, we need our own black media. Too often in Baltimore City, one news outlet controls everything. In DC, one news outlet has way too much power. What's that, the Washington Post, Irvin?
Yeah.
And Baltimore Sun.
Oh, we have black media. Black media.
They lost a lot of talent.
Yeah, the problem with the Post, they made a mistake going too hard after Marion. After they got Marion so hard, black people said, wait a minute, something wrong. Because he ain't that bad. Yeah. So after that, they lost respect. And like the Post, it's like, okay, well, nah, there's something wrong there. They're not fair.
That's where this show, where the Afro, the Baltimore Times, the Washington Informer, WEAA, we need our black news outlets just like this show so that we can speak truth to power.
And that's what we're doing.
But and Donnie, but to me, the problem is until we as black people, and I think we're beginning to wake up a little more, start to understand who we are. For example, I love Jewish people. I don't know if any of y'all ever been to the Holocaust Museum in DC. Oh my God. I don't care who you are, you walk out of there mad. But they're all over the world because the Jewish community don't ever want Jews to forget. You've never heard Jewish people complain about education.
That's right.
Because they ain't ever going to let you educate their kids. See, I grew up thinking George Washington never told a lie and cut down the cherry tree and all of this stuff. They forgot the slavery part, you know. And so until we start educating our own, we black people want to be white. Koreans don't want to be white. They want to be Koreans.
I would not say that. I would not agree with that.
Well, I do think that there's something to the education piece. So, for example, whenever I talk with people who have kind of made it through a difficult circumstance, who have made it out, who have like escaped whatever trauma, ghetto, whatever it was, there was something around them that educated them about who they were, about their regalness, about, you know, whatever it was. I mean, it was Black Panthers did an amazing job of educating people in the 60s. Yeah. Civil rights movement. It was citizenship classes, teaching people their power, their rights. You know, the Nation of Islam. I think that in our community, we're hungry to know who we are and what our history is. And whomever is telling it, we gravitate to it, and it can elevate us. You know, sometimes that education isn't always what it needs to be and can put us on a different path. But I think that educating ourselves about who we are and about our history is a really important point.
The problem is media has been used to distract us also. When you think of the new generation, the new entertainers, You know, back when we grew up, Irvin, Marsha, even you, China, there were people who we looked up to, and you counted on them to maintain character, integrity. You didn't have to worry about who they really are. Today, like I said earlier, you got new millennials. They want to put a tweet up, a Facebook post. You get one newspaper headline, but they know nothing of the sacrifices of Coleman. What's his name? Coleman Young?
Coleman Young from Detroit.
Maynard Jackson. When you go to Atlanta, let me tell you when you got power. And I'm not saying Atlanta has power, but when I go to Atlanta, there's a certain expectation that Black people run this joint.
Period.
From top to bottom, period. When you go down there to do something with Hartsfield International Airport, Maynard Jackson said, you're going to hire Black people or we're going to cut the water off or something to that effect. And as a result, you have a Herman J. Russell, multimillionaire, who employs Black people who build in the Black community. They ain't built jack crap in East Baltimore, West Baltimore in my lifetime.
And Herman was trying to do business up here. It's about 20 years ago now, but he was trying. He couldn't break through. It was real hard.
Harriet Tubman said, "I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more.
Yeah,
if only they knew they were slaves."
Yeah,
we have Black elected officials who are slaves.
That's right.
And some of them need to go. They've been there too long. There should be term limits. I'm not a fan of the Republicans per se, but her name was Nikki Haley, UN ambassador. And she said it was never her job to stay in there 3, 4, 5 terms. Pass the ball. But a lot of times we, in the Black community, you know, we want to be king of the hill and ain't did nothing for nobody.
Why is that?
One state senator told me he brought back $200,000 for in his community. I'm like, dog, you've been there 20, 30 years. That's all you got? That's no money. So that's why we don't have a Holocaust museum.
But here's the question. We have the African American Smithsonian Museum.
And it's back every year. It should be paid for.
Then why isn't it?
Because we didn't negotiate it. China, you said you think it, you get what you negotiate.
I'm just thinking about what you're saying. And I mean, I think there's a lot of truth in what you're saying. I like the Harriet Tubman quote a lot. I think that it's very powerful to think about what it is that we're not doing for our community. And I guess what's running through my mind, I'm just going to be honest, what's running through my mind is that, look, I moved to Baltimore right before I turned 17. And I came back to Baltimore about almost 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago now. And in 4.5 years, through my work at my nonprofit, I have brought $13 million into the neighborhood where I am focused. And if I look at that, and it's not, the neighborhood just sucks it up because there's so much that's needed, But when I look at that, that's
the same.
So much more than an entire delegation for.
But what did you do with that 13 million?
Period of time.
What did you do with the 13 million? What did you assist? What did you help in that East Baltimore with the 13 million?
So I had to spend the first 3 million cleaning up an environmental wasteland that, 4 acres that the city had used as an old city yard and just abandoned in the middle of an amazing community. So it wasn't even that, our people tore down our community, which is, I think, often the myth that we are destroying our own communities. No, in this particular instance, Baltimore City just left a dump in the middle of the community, and it cost $3 million to clean it up.
You're talking about East Baltimore?
This is in East Baltimore. And
anything that happens in East Baltimore is under the realm of Johns Hopkins. So you should have been able to keep your $3 million, and they should have used some of the billions that they've been able to benefit off of
Henrietta Lacks.
Like Henrietta Lacks and the healer cells, the immortal cells, and should have paid for it the damn self. And they shouldn't have no parking over there in the 1400 block of Orleans Street at Dunbar High School. We never had to pay for parking.
So here's the deal. I don't agree with Johns Hopkins' philosophy of development, but I also don't agree that I need to look to somebody else to clean up my community. And I think that's part of the reason that we don't have anything in our community.
You're not checking out how many tax breaks that institution gets, the positive press, and
taxes need to be slashed for everybody. Black people right now, we do not have the boulevard that we need to wealth.
Because white institutions get breaks. White institutions get tax breaks. Look at this Ritz-Carlton there with a $3 million water bill.
Right. How did that happen? Nobody checked it.
It feeds corruption, it creates favoritism, and it means that wealthy people get tax breaks that everyone in the city should have. That's absolutely right. If we look at the tax breaks, what we're going to see is that people are bringing their tax rate down to make it the same as what it would be if they did the same project in DC or in Baltimore County. And that tax rate needs to apply across the entire city so that every grandmother, every 23-year-old entrepreneur, every single one in the city can benefit, whether they live in Carrollton Ridge, whether they live in Mondawmin area, whether they live in Druid Heights.
You say that, China, but it's not happened. We have everything in place that we need. Mondawmin has, since Freddie Gray, gotten a lot of nonprofit dollars have come to Mondawmin. Do you know who is benefiting from those dollars at Mondawmin? White people in a black neighborhood where Freddie Gray happened.
No, I mean, I think you and I are agreeing in that I'm saying that I believe that the property tax is underpinning structural racism in this city. But I think that historically, when I look at it from Reconstruction, typically in Reconstruction, there were over 1,300 Black politicians elected across the United States during Reconstruction. And where they were elected, the taxes were raised. And the taxes were raised because Black politicians during the Reconstruction were using tax increases to redistribute wealth, to make sure that wealthy plantation owners either carved up the plantations, sold it, or either put it to productive use and hired more people to work the land, which would then give jobs to the freed slaves. And so I think there's this idea that I think there's this historical link in our community where we are comfortable with high taxes, but we shouldn't be. It bleeds our wealth and it keeps us behind. And it makes us not able to profit off of other opportunities in wealth and investment coming into the city, like what you're talking about. We're not positioned.
Part of the challenge, though, is that you've got to use that because we don't have the tax base to offset this city. There aren't enough people who have the income that live within the borders of the city to be able to do that. But I'm going to go back to the 13 million because you already told me about 3. What else have you done at East Baltimore?
So there's a $4.5 million new building that City Seed Social Enterprises and that's a catering company. That's new construction. And then there is another.
Is that Black owned?
It's not. It's owned by a nonprofit. So I have leases from Black owned businesses and they have incentives to be able to come into the work that I'm doing because my whole goal is to get Black owned businesses into the work that I'm doing. Half of what I have is leased to Black owned businesses, but I'm raising the money so that they can get the same kind of deal that Whole Foods got. When Cataracta said, Whole Foods, you can come into the city, we're going to build it out for you, you don't have to pay anything. That's the same thing that I think needs to happen in the Black community for Black businesses. And so I'm still raising that money. But then otherwise, we've also built another building that was $3.5 million. And that's a historical rehab building, absolutely beautiful. We're in the process of leasing it, advertising right here on Be More News for that building. Donnie, I hope that I'm going to send that over to Donnie and hopefully that advertisement can go up soon. And so I want Black owned businesses to call me about that space so that we can talk about it. We can talk about what is the deal that you need in order to make it work for you. So obviously there's going to
be— What kind of deals are you looking for? Because we kind of talked about that before. What kind of deals are you looking for that's affordable for smaller Black businesses?
And I want the Black businesses to tell me what is it that they need to get to the next level of their business expansion.
When I consider the money that this country has dumped in the stimulus package for white companies, Black businesses should be given. And I'm not saying you per se, China, but there's no question with Black. See, they always playing dumb like they don't know what we need. Off the top, they done took care of their rich white friends. But then we got to articulate. I got to show you this. Tax, you know damn well what they need. The same thing everybody else needs: air, sunshine, and water. But they want to charge for air.
It's shameful, but it's real. and they give it out like it's water.
When you white, they just give it to you.
Right.
Oh,
You don't even have to talk about
we
it.
can come together to support our own. I guess in my mind, there isn't a they and us and them. I honestly think that we have the wealth, the power, the intelligence,
say that again.
everything that we need within our community. I think we have everything we need within our community to educate our own people, to go out on the street corner and get our own people off of the street corner, to build up our own buildings. We have enough wealth in the Black community to do this.
But we have too much fear, China. We've got too much fear. That's stifling. Fear.
It's not only fear, but there are people who have been so abused and have so traumatized and have lived such a difficult life, and they're just trying to push through it. And they're not trying to hear it because too many people have given them too many unmet promises. Too many people talk a good game, but they don't do what they say they're going to do, and they're left holding the bag. They're sitting there with an educational system that can't even have the infrastructure for the children to even get on the doggone internet. They don't have the infrastructure, but we will spend. I got somebody out here, and I keep sending to the mayor's office that has dug the same daggone hole at Lear.
And look at North
Avenue. Same thing. It's a game.
It's one damn lane of traffic. North Avenue is one lane of traffic. One lane.
It's a game, man.
In the right lane.
And it's racist. And it's racist against our own people. Because
you can't call it racist, Marsha.
I can call it racist. I can call it racist in the opposite direction. Let me finish my thought.
Yes, ma'am.
These people have been seriously going in, getting this money and paying them off. And I'm saying racism because it's reverse. We do it against ourselves. Okay. We sit down and we hate ourselves, and we're so busy trying to get our own money that's why half of them are sitting up in jail, because they are so busy about me, first person singular, that they don't think about the whole community and what needs to happen. Why is Baltimore sitting here in the middle of this madness? It doesn't make sense. My goal is to sit down and keep saying what I'm saying because I'm tired of this BS.
Right. So, Urban, we want to know, do you have the Healthy Holly books? I'm just joking.
I couldn't find them in Prince George's County, so yeah.
Urban, we only got a few minutes. Any final thoughts as we wind down? Well, this has been exhilarating.
My thing is this, Donnie. Until we decide white folk ain't got nothing to do with our problems,
amen,
then we can't succeed.
And the water's not colder.
Right. See, Joe Biden came to South Carolina and had no shot in hell of winning. That was the moment you cut deals. You don't cut the deal. That's what I'm saying. Wayne and Kirk weren't gonna get blended in and elected and say, let's go cut. No, he cutting that deal beforehand. We until we look. So I ain't even mad at what Biden does. I'm looking at Clyburn, dude. You put in there.
He sure did.
Problem. Clyburn's the problem, not Biden. Dude, he can't win.
And here's what's interesting is Clyburn's brother, John Clyburn, was making all that money off of Marion Barry.
Right.
He was doing all that construction, doing all of that. And he apparently didn't learn nothing from his brother on how to do what he's supposed to do. But that's another conversation.
We got to look at it. Look, I don't have a problem. I like people. No, I don't have a problem with Mike Miller. I got a problem with the Negroes that allow Mike Miller to do what Mike Miller doing.
And don't put him in check.
Yeah, like, dude, I mean, people out here taking hits for no reason at all. So no, I don't have. Look, this system works the way it's designed to work. Once you understand that, it's designed to keep people down. It's designed to make people money.
Urban, give me 5 things that the way it's designed to work. How is it designed to work? 5 things, 3 things, whatever you can come up with.
It's designed, number 1, not to educate our kids. Ain't nobody trying to educate our kids. I think it was Arnie Duncan, Obama's Secretary of Education, wrote a book and said it's system broke. When I quit my job in '89 and went back to Cherry Hill Junior High because I wanted to get back into sub. At that point, I knew, man, this is the dumbest thing in the world. Them kids ain't learning nothing. They pushing them through. No kid left behind, right? Some of them need to be left behind until they get it right. So that's one. Economically, we ain't in the economic picture. Ice Cube tried to tell y'all, and then he gonna be villainized by the black community. He said, look, this ain't about minorities, and this ain't about people of color. This is about people who are the ancestors of slaves. That's who I'm talking about. We need to get our peace. You have Native Americans have special laws to protect them. People from Hawaii and people from Alaska have special laws. We're the only people in this country that came here against our will. We ain't no regular immigrant. We built the country. There needs to be special programs for African Americans, not minorities, and not, yeah, we can have all them programs, but we need our special programs too. It ain't designed, it's designed whenever we make a stride, is to put people in charge that don't look like us, and then they get most of the money. That's the second way that it happens.
We only got a couple minutes left. Irvin, can you put your contact information, tell everybody what you do, use this as a chance, and then we're going to go to China. I want you to tell everybody who you are. We only got a couple minutes. This is the abbreviated version. Same for you, Marsha. Thank you. Irvin?
Again, I'm Irvin Reed. I run campaigns with people that I really like now. But my goal, I'm a mathematician by education, so I'm writing a book about Black mathematicians and people in STEM that look like me.
Oh, that's great.
So that's where I'm headed from next. We'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah, we will talk about that.
No, I love STEM. Yeah.
Irvin, how do we get in touch with you?
Oh, you can get in touch with me by irvinbernardreed.com.
Do you work for free?
Do I work for free? It depends. I volunteer all the time. I give back. Yeah.
That's a hell and a no. Okay, China Terrell.
I'm China Boak Terrell. I am the CEO of American Communities Trust, a Baltimore-based nonprofit. Our focus is putting small businesses into low-income communities so that those communities can thrive. I'm a former foster mom and a corporate lawyer, and now I lead a nonprofit.
Marsha Jews.
Hi, Marsha Jews. I do an amalgam of things. I can be reached at marshajews@gmail.com.
Y'all can call me 443-858-2684. I got Cash App, $ Donnie Glover. PayPal me. I learned from Larry the Celebrity Cab Driver. He said, buy ad, Cash App me.
That's funny. I love you, Donnie Glover.
NewMoreNews.com. Thank you, Marsha, for all of my set details. My lamp is coming in a couple of days, so we'll be certified. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a powerful Monday. And
thanks, everybody.
Hey, that's not your typical sign off. Come on, give us the mantra.
Up to day, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.
Good morning.
Thank you all.